Hey guys, welcome to Swartz Tools. This is Swartz, and now I'm back with the part 2 of how did I make It's an Apple. I hope you guys watched the previous part of this tutorial. If you haven't, I've put the link in the description, so make sure you check that out. And in this part, we are going to look at the UV mapping and procedural displacement map generation. Also, I'm going to show you some tricks I've used with the Vertex color maps. So let's begin. So now we are done with the modeling and layout parts. Now let's look at the LOOKDEV part. So before that, let me show you the how I have done the UV mapping for this particular asset. So this is the UV mapping I have done. I know it's not the right way to UV mapping, or there is a lot of problems. Stretchings and seam is visible, so those kind of things. But mostly I've concentrated was to get this front part right. And as you know, the final, if you look at the final output, or the top parts or the side parts, those parts are mostly on defocus, or there's a lot of drops on top of it, so it's mostly invisible. And also I'm adding a lot of textures, procedural maps on top of each other, overlapping, so the stretchings and those kind of things won't be really visible. So I've tried this and it was working for me, so that's why I have kept these UV map as it is. And also I'm not really good at UV mapping and texturing, so if I wanted more clean texture maps, I would have asked someone to help me with this. So in this case I never needed any help of that kind, so I kept it as it is. So the second thing I did is I created another UV map for this asset, because when I was doing procedural texturing, I wanted some textures to be visible in a particular way, which I wasn't getting with the first map. So I had to create another map just for some particular procedural textures. So, and I did a UV linking for those kind of those textures with the second map to get the desired result. So that's with the UVs. And the second thing I did was I created a vertex color map just to get rid of this seam, because most of the textures was using the first UV map, which has the seam on the back side of it. So if you look through the camera, almost this is the view of the final output if you see the final output. So this seam is visible on it. If you render this thing on camera, you can see the problem with the seam. I guess you can see this. So in order to get rid of this seam, what I've done is I used a vertex color. So you can create you can paint colors on the vertex and save it as a color set and export it into the shading. And there's a workflow where we can paint colors onto the vertex and use it on the shading. ARNOLD supports this workflow with the node. So how I have created a vertex paint color is in the ARNOLD tab there is a tick mark for export vertex color. By default it will be turned off, so you have to turn on in order to export whatever colors we are painted on vertex. And second thing is, just to see what we are painting on top of the mesh, is go to the mesh component display and change the display color channel to none, and turn on the tick mark on display colors. So now you can see the vertex colors I have painted on the apple on just on the location of the scene, so that I can use it as a mask to mask off the scene in whatever textures I'm using. So how did I created this vertex color is, let me show you it in a sphere. So by default, what we see on the viewport is the color which is given into the diffuse color of the shader, which is applied to the any of the option. So in order to see the vertex color, you have to, just like I said earlier, you have to turn on the display color channel and show display colors. And now in order to paint, go to mesh display and choose paint vertex color tool and go to its options. So you can choose here a color to paint and just paint. If you turn off this display color, you can't see this vertex color. And you can also paint multiple colors on the mesh. So now we have painted some colors onto it. Now let's see how we export these colors into the shaders. So in order to export this onto the shader, you have to check this tick mark on export vertex colors, and now go to the shaders and for this we use a node called AIUSERDATACOLOR, and on the AIUSERDATA just connect it into the color of the texture. You can use it in anywhere you want, not just in colors. You can use it in anywhere. If you render this, nothing is visible now because we haven't given any data to the AIUSERDATACOLOR. We haven't told the AIUSERDATACOLOR what information should it pass on to the diffuse color of the shader. So what value or what attribute you should add here is the color set name. So when we paint vertex colors onto some object, it will create a color set on that mesh and it will store all the color data on the color set. So if we delete this one, if we delete this color set one, you can see whatever we painted just now is gone. So the color information is stored on this color set. You can create a new color set from here and you can paint another colors onto it. So we can create multiple masks like this onto the same object with this setup. So I'm deleting the new one which I've created, and you can rename this and renaming it into test. So the name test is what we have to keep as attribute in the AIUSERDATACOLOR. So I'm giving the name here and you get the color here. Now we got the vertex colors onto our shader. Now let's see how we use it as a mask. So I'm simply using a blend color node here and I'm using it on diffuse color. So we have two colors here and I want red only visible through the red channel of this mask. So for this to work, I am adding the red channel into the blender. So now you can see the red is driving the red color of the pen color, and the rest of them are coming in green. So if we change the red into the green channel, it will come only through the green channel. Same thing with the blue channel. If I connect the blue channel, the mask uses the blue channel. So you can use Vertex color tool on pretty much anything. So since the vertex colors are not stored as texture maps, the resolution or quality of the map is dependent on how much vertex your mesh has. So if we increase the mesh count, your number of vertices will increase, and the quality of the mask will improve. So right now you can see there is not much vertexes here, just for that smoothness for the vertex colors. So it depends on how much quality or how much detail you want on vertex colors. For me, I didn't have to go so far on the mesh detail. I subdivided it one, I guess, and I was getting this smooth result with it. So that's it with the vertex colors and UV map. So now we are all done with the UV and UV mapping parts and some tricks with the vertex colors. Let's go into LOOKDEV. So now we are all done with the extra steps before LOOKDEV, and finally we are ready to start looking at our shading networks. Okay, this is our final shading network. It is kind of big, and like the network goes here and there, it's all like interconnected. So I'll explain one by one to you so that it will be easy for you to understand. So usually when we start anything in a procedural workflow, we start from the base. In this case, I started with was the displacement. So let me show you the references which I have collected for look development on textures, for example. So these were some of the references I've collected for colors and texture details. So I was mostly focusing on creating these small dot-like textures, and then these stripes-like textures, and then these kind of bigger and color variations. Like here you can see there is a red, and there is yellow, and there is kind of greenish yellow. See here there is a major color difference from yellow to red. So if we are looking from a texture point of view, what we will, as a texture artist, what we will first create as a base will be these color differentiation, or maybe you'll add a total red color as a base, and then paint some yellow colors on top of it, or some greenish colors. So that's the start. And then from the displacement or mesh deformations, as I said, I started with the displacement details. So what I was focusing on, when you get these dots, there may be some bumps on it, there will be some deformations, and before all of that, uh, if you see the apple model, this is kind of a perfect shape from a, you know, an artistic point of view. This is a, like, this is a perfect apple shape. So I don't want the apple to be some perfect sphere or something. I want some deformation on the mesh, because every organic things or organic objects will have some smaller or bigger deformations. Let's say the apple fell on the ground and had a part which got flattened or punctured, and there was a color change according to that, or those kind of things. So what I first created was the overall deformation of the apple. So I'll show you the displacement from here. So this is our displacement part, and if you see here, I have created an A layer RGBA for the displacements, in which I have connected more than like 4 or 5 maps. So for displacement, I'm using 0 scalar value as 0.5, which means whatever on the map, whatever value is 0.5, there will be 0 displacement. So I have put a single solid color on the layer 1, and I put its value 0.5, so that overall the base value for the displacement will be 0. And here I put the scale on 1, and all the other displacement values I am controlling from layers. With the mix, I am putting different values on mix here. So let me show you, let me disable all of this first and show you what the base layer on the display. So let me take a quick render. And for this, I'm gonna show you the basic mode of ARNOLD render, because displacement is easily visible on basic. With all the textures and all that details, it will be hard for you to understand how much displacement details I have added on each layer. So this is our base layer. There is nothing, no displacement at all. So if I change this scale from 1 to 0, there is no change. Or yeah, there is no change, because the yeah. So if I change, let me just snapshot it, okay, and if I adjust it to the, let's say 0.1, and again did I put render, yeah, you can see this changes its values, the deformation changes. So 0.5 is the 0 displacement, and then the first layer, which is bigger breakups. So for bigger breakups, what I have used is AI noise, which if I isolate the texture, it's kind of a bigger deformations which are create which deforms the apple overall. You know, these kind of deformations are common in organic materials, or even in hard surface. You can see there will be some bigger these kind of breakups always. So there will be reasons for how these deformations comes and all. Actually, these details will tell better stories with it, because if there is a bump on the apple, and we will be thinking what happened on that part of the apple. So we will be thinking about something, or it fell from the tree, or someone punched it, or anything. So each of these details will be telling different stories. So it's better we add more and more details when you're working on it. So these are the base breakups which I've done for the mesh, and the second detail was smaller breakups. So this one I guess is a very detailed breakups, like very small details. So I have used a fractal node for this, and I usually I adjust settings like amplitude. I do play with ratio and then the level max. Those are the things that gives me these kind of inner details of this let's say breakups. The more you increase ratio, the more inner details it added, and the level max, it creates the fractal repetition on levels. If you zoom the smaller parts of these, a small part of these fractal, there will be the same repetition goes in depth. It goes into 6 levels, 6 depths, or 6 levels of depths. It creates the same fractal again and again inside. So if you zoom in the fractal, it won't lose details. The levels increases that inner details. So this was the smaller breakups, and that gives me pretty good breakup overall. So this was the main breakup. If I say, like, it helped me break these speculars really well. It brought most of that organic breakups and look of that apple. And the third one was dots. So like what I was saying about these smaller dots, so I used a granite for the smaller dots. So if you want to see it clearly, I'll just disable the smaller breakups. So granite is basically a 3D texture which gives these dot like structures or texture maps, and it was perfect for those dots. And I've used 2 granites because I wanted size variations. I couldn't create different size variations on this single granite. It was so long ago which I've done this project, and so I don't clearly remember what I did. And it was, sometimes I just go with the flow and create some things, and then again I come back and I won't be remembering all of this what I've done, and it takes a moment to understand myself, like what did I do there. And yeah, so this was the granite one, and this was the granite 2. As you can see, there is small size variations and the density variations. So let's see it on the basic form, like how it's coming. So for these kind of very smaller details, you will be needing a high amount of subdivision on the mesh. If I go to wireframe, you see I have subdivided it into crazy amount of detail. So I wanted to try this because it wasn't about optimization or anything. It was totally about procedural workflow, and I wanted to create some totally procedural details as much as I can. So that was the only thing I was thinking about, and I went crazy in this. So those 2 granites, and I guess that's it. So these were the 5 elements I've added for the details. So this was all what was part of the displacement. So let's go back and explain or rewind it one more time. First, let's just create a flat color on the layer 1, which is on 0.5. if you put the zero scalar value to 0, here you should be putting 0 or black color instead of 0.5. But I like putting the zero scalar value to 0.5 because then we can use only the values from 0 to 1. I don't want to go to the negative values, which can create some problems in the renders. I always stay inside 0 to 1 values, so just playing it safe. You can try creating from 0 scalar value to 0, and you can experiment with it. Maybe you end up on some problems and you find better solutions, and you can share it with me later. So that's about displacement. So before going into shading of base color detail procedural workflow, I missed some points on LOOKDEV of the displacement part. So first one was how much I have subdivided this mesh. So if I come to the Apple shape node and goes to subdivision, you can see the subdivision iteration is on 5. I have never went that far before, but in this case it was simply a one object, so I didn't really care about going that much, because still you can see some of these dots are breaking because there is not enough subdivisions for this kind of smaller details. Still I managed to get this much of details with 5 iterations, so I thought that was enough. And the second thing is, when I showed you the fractal, I told you I usually play with these mainly ratio and level max. Then there is major part also with the place to detection, this place to detection node. So here I play with repeat UVs. So in order to get that stretchy look, this is the pattern is stretching from top to bottom. So in order to create that, I changed the repeat UV value from 1 and 1, which will be a square, to 6, 2. You can play with it, of course, and that gives me this stretching. And also I've added some amount of noise onto the texture, which gives me that wavy look, so which was coming fine for me. So those are the 2 details I missed on the first part. And now let's go to base color development. Once again, thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure you like this video and share your opinion about it in the comments. Share this video with others who are also interested in lighting and want to create stunning images like this one. And make sure you don't miss out on any of the future contents of this channel by hitting the subscribe button. I'll see you guys with the LOOKDEV part of these apples soon. Till then, this is Swat signing off. Bye.